Wrestling returns to Holyoke as Northeast Wrestling presents Spring Slam at the Holyoke War Memorial on Saturday, April 27th. See in action Jerry the King Lawler, Billy Gunn, Pentagon Jr., Ray Phoenix, NEW champion Brad Hollister, Holyoke's own Hammer Tunis, and more. Autograph session with the Stars at 6 p.m. Tickets start at only $20, available now at northeastwrestling.com or at the door that night. See Jerry Lawler, Pentagon Jr., and more live at the Holyoke War Memorial on Saturday, April 27th. Visit northeastwrestling.com for more info.
You just heard the commercial. Northeast Wrestling is coming to the Holyoke War Memorial for their annual Spring Slam on Saturday, April 27th. Big stars such as Ray Phoenix, Pentagon Jr., and WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler will be in attendance. The show will be capped off with a huge Northeast Wrestling Championship match, with Brad Hollister defending against Wrecking Ball Legursky. And I am very lucky to have Big Bacon Brad Hollister in the studio with me here tonight. So right off the bat, I just want to thank you for being here. Really appreciate you taking the time to come on in.
Oh, thank you for having me, man. And when you say big, I think you mean in a figurative and literal sense, because Wrecking Ball is a large human being. So, I mean, if you name yourself Wrecking Ball, you better be pretty big. So, yeah, we got a big one coming up the 27th, night before. I'm defending my title again against Darby Allin up in Danbury. So, busy weekend that weekend for me.
So who do you think is going to be a tougher challenge between the two of them?
Okay, so I talked about this with my buddy the other day. Completely two different matchups, and that's one thing I kind of pride myself on in wrestling. It was like an old Flair adage where he's like, I want to be able to go out there with anyone and have a great match. So having Darby, having Wrecking Ball, you have two 1,000% completely different opponents, and I'm going to be coming with a different game plan for both of them. But again, I just want to show that I can have a great match with whoever they throw me in there with. That being said, I faced Wrecking Ball before, so I'm going to go with the beast I know would be easier to beat. So I'm going to have to go Darby would be the tougher challenge just because I've never been in there with him before, even though he's about 150 pounds.
Yeah. So how are you training for those two matches? Is there a little bit of a different training style for both of them? How are you getting ready for this weekend?
Honestly, right now, I go through phases where I try to bulk up and lean out, and I switch it up all the time. I just got off a bulking phase, so I'm gonna probably go back to leaning out. Try to lose a couple lbs. Be able to go the long distance with Darby, and then be able to be quicker than Wrecking Ball. I think that should be my strategy going into it. Also, I have Pioneer Valley Pro at the Eastville Mall in Springfield this weekend on April 20th. It's right in the food court, and I'm going against the degenerate Dexter Lou. If you know anything about gamblers, they're going to be in it to the long haul. They're going to scratch and claw. So, I'm ready to go long in that match too. It's all about being able to go the distance.
Yeah, and that's very true. I've seen you in the ring so many times now, and you really are able to go to the distance. You are the Northeast Wrestling Heavyweight Champion. And kind of tell me how it felt to become the champion.
So the crazy part is building up to it, I kind of felt the momentum going that way. And wrestling, you never want to say anything until it's like official, because then you'll just end up looking like an idiot. So I kind of felt like it was going that way, and so I don't want to say I was expecting it when I got it, but I kind of could tell that that's where it was going. But to me, the cool part was getting it. It was who I got it from. Was beating Jack Swagger, a guy I grew up watching on television. Being an amateur wrestler my entire life, he was one of my favorites right off the bat when he showed up on WWE. So being able to get it from him, and me and him actually, growing, like having a nice relationship, like in the back, like we got along really well. We had a lot of common interests. So getting it from him, a guy that I looked up to, and then a guy that became my friend, like that just made it a real special moment.
That's absolutely true. And you've had a great title run so far. Throughout that title run, you've had many different opponents. Who would you say has been one of those toughest opponents you've had in the ring as champion so far?
As champ, man, PCO was tough, obviously, because he is a modern day Frankenstein. Guy's madman. So obviously that was a tough one. I just went up against Bandito not that long ago. And again, that's another one, completely different matchup from PCO. He was really tough. He's a world-renowned star. But you know who I'm gonna actually have to give it to? I'm gonna have to give it to MJF.
Oh,
Because,
wow.
Yeah, and the reason I give it to MJF isn't because he's stronger or tougher than PCO or that he's faster than Bandito. It's because he's smart. And
That's true.
Yeah, I like to use my power. I like to use my speed. But I feel like I'm a tactician in there where I'm very – it may hide underneath me throwing people around, but I'm very technical in there. But everything I brought to him, he had an answer for. So I might have to give it to him.
He's also probably one of the most cocky opponents you've had in
Yes,
the ring with you.
he's the only guy I think that ever beat me in ego, and that kills me to this day. But he might have me beat.
Well, maybe someday you can beat him out again with that, getting your own ego up there.
Yeah, there we go.
But now talking about as a champion, who's maybe the toughest opponent you've ever had in your entire career so far?
I'm gonna have to either go with Flip Gordon because me and him had so many wars. I say it all the time. He's the first guy that when I really got in there with, I was just like, oh, this is how it's supposed to feel in there. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he's the yin to my yang in that sense of I'm a guy who likes to throw people around, and he's a guy who likes to land. So we had a very fun dynamic where it was me tossing him around and him landing on his feet somehow. Like, so. I'm going to have to say Flip Gordon, and right behind him, probably Matt Riddle or, like you said, Jack Swagger.
Yeah, and there were some great chants for those matches, too. Flip the Bacon. That
Oh,
was,
yeah.
that was one of my favorites.
Yeah, man, the NEW crowd's fun. They're very fun. They engage with the wrestlers, and they have their own chants, and I love it, man. I like that energy. Like, I that's what I want them to keep bringing, I feel like since I got the belt, they only just kept supporting me more and more, so just keep bringing that energy, like I love that crowd.
Yeah, I know right in Bethany, that's where you had most of those matches, and that's some of the best fans I've ever seen. And hopefully we'll have a crowd just like that when we come up to Holyoke in a couple weeks.
We're talking a little bit off air. Like, I'm from Western Mass. Like, I grew up in Western Mass my entire life, Springfield native. This is where I love to be. Even I don't care where I go in my career, I'm gonna have a home here, But Northeast Wrestling usually runs the Connecticut, New York area, and that's, over 2.5 to 3 hours travel on me every single time, where Holyoke is legitimately 15, 20 minutes away from my house. So, like, that is a whole another ball game to me where it's like I don't have to travel. I won't have to get home at 3, 4 in the morning after going out after the show because, that's what you do with the guys. But yeah, man, I hope it really goes well, and I hope a lot of people show up, and I hope a lot of people support it, and that way Northeast Wrestling could continue to go to Holyoke, and I could go to sleep at a good time after wrestling.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's kind of a testament to you as well because you really haven't had that hometown crowd necessarily in Northeast Wrestling yet.
Not Northeast,
no. Give it to you. This will give you that hometown crowd for Northeast Wrestling where you are the champion, and hopefully that'll be one of the biggest crowds you've had so far in terms of having a loud crowd there for you.
Absolutely, and that's another reason why I wanted to face Wrecking Ball that night, because it being a local show, like I'm going to get a lot of people I know, a lot of friends, a lot of family, like hopefully they all come out and support. But I also want to show my friends and family that I could throw around 400 pounds like it's a 100-pound potato sack, you know what I mean? So it's going to be a good one. I'm very, very excited about it. Like I said, I hope a lot of people show up. Because, like, I do a couple other shows around here, like we're talking about Western Mass Wrestling, a brand new promotion that just got started up. Pioneer Valley Pro, which has been around for a while. They really gave me my first opportunity in wrestling. Like I said, we have those two companies, but Northeast Wrestling is a whole nother animal.
Oh, yeah.
Where they want to pack in the thousands instead of the hundreds. So, you know what I mean? So that it's a good money-making opportunity, and not having to, like I said, travel and go all that distance all the time, and having my hometown fans, having, like, my parents will sometimes, come out and make the travel, but to be able to tell them, like, hey, it's only 10 minutes down the road, like, that's really cool, man. So I hope these opportunities keep coming up.
Oh yeah, and I hope so too. Being up at school here, Western New England, just
Absolutely.
another opportunity to see more wrestling. Everyone here knows I love wrestling, and I'm down to go to any show possible, pretty much. But kind of speaking of this show itself, with Wrecking Ball being a former Northeast Wrestling champion, do you think that kind of brings another dynamic to the table for the match as well?
I mean, like, so the thing about having a former champion is they know what it takes to get the belt, the strap, if you will. But I don't think it changes my game plan at all. He knows that when you're the champion, you do have the championship advantage. But I'm not a punk. I'm not gonna go out, any of those punk ways. I'm gonna beat him up and hopefully make him pin or make him tap at the center of the ring and keep my belt, hold it up high over my head. That I used to teach in Holyoke, so it's a really cool opportunity.
Yeah.
Like, I got to reach out to some of my former students, and they're going to come down and hang out at the show. So, hopefully it all goes well. I hope I don't invite all these people and then I end up losing and getting beat up. That won't be cool.
That would be bad, especially if, let's hope, knock on wood, this doesn't happen. But if you were to lose it in Danbury, that would...
I know. I'm talking like this is a sure thing. If I show up in Holyoke and I don't even have a belt with me, I'm just gonna lie and be like, I lost it. I'll be like, yeah, I just not lost it in the ring. I lost it in the car. Someone stole it. That will be my immediate excuse. I'll be like, I don't know what happened to it. And they'll see Darby have it, and I'll be like, oh, he must be the guy who stole it.
So, having these two shows in a row, what is it like, the toll on your body, having these shows, especially back to back in one weekend? How is that for you?
Strangely enough, I say 2 is better than 1 on the body, which sounds weird to say, but when you have that second show, it's like your body's stiffened up after the first one, and then that loosens it back up, and then you're kind of like in the groove. 3 is hard because then it gets back to the sore part after the third one, but like I said, I like when it's 2, I feel like I feel better that following Monday than I do if it's 1, because I feel like if I have 1, I have the wrestling show a lot of times on a Saturday, and then Sunday I'll kind of just be sitting there and eating like junk because, I just performed. So I'm like, oh, okay, I could eat a little crappy today. I don't have a show tomorrow,
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I would say that 2 is a lot easier than 1.
I wasn't expecting that, but I'll take it from the champ.
It loosens you up. Like I said, if you ever work out after not working out for a while, you're super, super sore the next day.
Oh, that's true.
But if the next day you stretch and you move and you start kind of get your muscles going, you feel a lot better, a lot quicker. So that's kind of how I make that little jump right there.
Yeah, when you put it that way, that actually does make some perfect sense, actually. And so just speaking about Northeast Wrestling as well, I've been a fan of Northeast Wrestling for a few years now, probably going on like 4 years or so, and I've really seen the company grow. I think Northeast Wrestling is really not just one of those indie companies anymore. I think they really are becoming a top-level regional, and even almost they're really growing across the country now. Yeah,
like we do the Ohio show every year. That's usually our farthest one that we go out and travel to. And last year we had a great time out there, man. So much fun. Being able to just get out more, like that's always my goal. Like I do love wrestling around here, but I want to travel over the world and I want to see everywhere and wrestle anywhere I can. So when we went to Ohio last year, we were lucky enough to not have a show the next day, and I was like, all right, we're in Niles, we're about 45 minutes away from Cleveland. Let's just go to the Hall of Fame. Like, what else? When else are we going to be in Niles, Ohio? Like, let's go check it out. So we went out to a random hotel in Cleveland, and I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of this story, but I ended up getting us a 2 or 3 room suite and an extra room for the price of one cheap room.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know how we ended up getting all that, but it ended up working out nice for us.
Well, that's awesome, and I know you're talking about trying to perform as far as you can, spreading your roots. And what is some of the other farthest shows you've done around the country, even internationally? How far have you gone?
I've done Philly a bunch. I mean, like I said, I'm usually in the Northeast. Maine, which you would think, oh yeah, that's New England, but some parts of Maine are 8 hours away.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Ohio. I want to branch out as much as possible. I want to try to get out more. I've done New York a ton of times. Yeah, Just want to try to get out as much as possible and start making those leaps to other places, start being able to travel. And because that's the coolest part about it. You get to see all these places while doing what you love. So that's a big reason I want to branch out.
So is there, speaking of your career and your career goals, is there anywhere you kind of see yourself moving in the future? Do you see any career moves as in wrestling going on for you?
Well, so the weird thing about wrestling is you can't just like go up and apply for something. It's not like it's not like a job. I can't just walk up to Stamford, Connecticut and hand in an application. But yeah, I mean, obviously WWE is the end goal for everybody. But the way the wrestling landscape is changing now, there's so many options. I say it all the time. To me, making it is not having to have a regular day job, which I got to accomplish this past year, where I got to leave my teaching job to just focus solely on wrestling. But I mean, yeah, like I said, WWE's the end goal, but the landscape changing so much. You have AEW now, which is going to be a huge, huge deal. I've wrestled Cody before. I have a good relationship with him. So hopefully, maybe something could happen there. Ring of Honor has always been a staple in the wrestling world. You get a lot of respect going through that place because it's, like I said, it's that's the place that has the reputation of the best wrestlers come through here.
Absolutely.
So that's why Ring of Honor is always a great spot. I've done a couple dark matches for them, like the non-televised matches.
Yep, exactly.
And yeah, like they seem to go great. So hopefully things keep rolling, just keep the ball rolling. What really put me on the map is once I started getting into Northeast Wrestling and kind of put me on a bigger stage where I felt like I was so stagnant for so long because I was like, I'm really good at what I do, but just the same 300 people see me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And being able to branch out and, like I said, work for Northeast Wrestling where they're in crowds of a couple thousand sometimes, that helped me get on the map more, and that helped me get to all these other places I'm now going.
Well, I think Northeast Wrestling is really known for sending those guys up to higher levels, from whether it be Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, AEW now, as well as NXT and WWE. We've seen them. We just saw Hanson debut on Raw the other night. So
that was awesome. I was so happy for him. I started pro wrestling when I was 15. There was a year in high school where I know we're on a college station, but I was academically ineligible, so I'm sorry everybody. Sorry to break some hearts. But yeah, I was academically ineligible one year in high school, and I was like, I gotta play a sport. Like, I've been playing a sport every year in my life, so I'm like, I gotta do something. And I just found pro wrestling from that, and then I ended up bringing my grades up, so I stopped for a little bit, and then once I was done with high school, I came back to it. But when I first started, he was Handsome Johnny.
Wow. Yes.
Hanson, of the Viking experience now, was Handsome Johnny, and it's just so crazy to see the transformation that he went through, and I'm so happy for him to be where he is. And I say it all the time, like every locker room I ever went into, he was like the man of that locker room.
Yeah.
Like every show, like I started in EWA when I was like 15 years old, and he was like the man of that locker room. Then I did a couple shots for Chaotic when I was like 19, and he was the man of that locker room. Then I first came into Northeast Wrestling like 2-3 years ago. He was the man of that locker room. Just like, man, every time I show up to a new place, Hanson just has it taken over.
Yeah, and what do you think about the name change for him and the team as well? Is that something you like, don't like?
Honestly, everyone online was freaking out about it. Me personally, like, I'm just happy for him. They could have changed his name to Blues Clues, and I would have still been like, that's Handsome Johnny on TV. Like, this is crazy. I like the name, but I think it's that they're so established and they're so well known that it's new. It's new. It's going to be different. It's like seeing a beloved TV character on a different show. You're like, wait a minute, that's like, that would be like seeing like Dwight Schrute from The Office on Parks and Recs. You know what I mean? You're but it's the same actor but a different character. So you know what I mean? You're like, wait a minute, that looks like Dwight and it acts like Dwight, but it's not Dwight because that's not his name and that's not, you know what I mean? So I can understand why people are a little thrown off by it, but again, I'm just so happy for the guy. They could have named him anything in the world, and I literally jumped off my couch. I was so happy.
I think part of it's just the internet age that we live in.
Of course.
People they just want to sound off about everything sometimes, even if it doesn't matter.
Squeaky wheel gets the oil, so the people who are going to complain are the ones that are going to be getting the retweets, because a lot of times when people complain, they'll make a funny joke, and a lot of times the joke is funny, even if you agree with the point or not. So like that will get the retweets, and that'll get more eyes on it. But like I said, he could have debuted as Wooden Desk. Like that could have been his name, Wooden Desk, and I would have still been over the moon happy for him.
Well, whether people like it or not, they're still talking about him. They're
Absolutely.
talking about him. They're talking about Raw. They're talking about the product. So something is working.
They
clearly.
came in. They were strong. They got the win. They got the pin. So yeah, it's a great start. That's how I look at it.
Hopefully, it keeps going well. And it's just another example of someone who came through Northeast Wrestling and now on Monday Night Raw. So you never really know where you can go, especially going through Northeast Wrestling and being the Northeast Wrestling champion. But I know you said you got started at the age of 15.
Yes.
What really drove you into wanting to become a pro wrestler?
So I liked it my whole life. Always been a fan of it. My dad trained for a little bit when he was younger, so he always liked it too. So that kind of helped. I would watch every pay-per-view as a little kid. When I started doing amateur wrestling, I could remember, I forget what I eat for breakfast sometimes, but I can remember this like it was yesterday. My mom asked me, she's like, hey, do you want to wrestle? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to jump off the top rope. And she's like, well, it's not that kind of wrestling, but do you want me to sign you up? Because it was my same coach as my football coach. So I was like, yeah, I want to wrestle. And I showed up there, and it was just like mats, and there was no ropes, and there's no turnbuckles. And
that's funny.
I looked underneath the mats, and there weren't any chairs, and I'm like, what am I doing here? But, so yeah, I've been a fan of it forever. And like I told you earlier, I wasn't eligible for any sports, and that killed me. Honestly, it was the only time in my life I really felt like I was a loser. I was just like I can't even play sports. To me, I never thought like that could be a possibility of like, wait a minute, who cares if I don't show up to that class? They can't take my sports away. And they did, and that's when I kind of found out, like, the world doesn't revolve around me, and there's consequences to my actions. And, but yeah, I found pro wrestling through that. I say it all the time, pro wrestling humbled me more than anything, because I'm naturally athletic with things. So playing sports, I felt like it was easy to just take control and let my athleticism kind of take over for me, where I'm like, I don't need to study that. Like, I'm just going to go out there. I'm stronger than him. What is he going to do about it, And then pro wrestling, like, you can't just go out there and win every time, and you can't just go out there and beat everybody up. Like, you're told what to do, and, it's a lot on you. So, especially when you're 15 years old, not a lot of 30-year-old men who have kids are going to want to be losing to a 15-year-old kid. So, like, my first 2 years in wrestling, like, it was just me getting beat up by people twice my age, and there was really I didn't know better to do anything about it, and I was just like, and that helped me, that humbled me, and that honestly helped me, like I said, when I turned it around, and I got my grades up enough to play the sports in high school. Like I said, I became a teacher after that. I said, if it wasn't for pro wrestling, my life would be on a totally different path, and I'm happy I don't have to see what that path was.
Yeah, no, as I can see, you really did step up to the plate. You really saw the opportunity when it came up, and you said, I don't want my life to go this way.
Absolutely.
And here's where you are now, and I think you still have so much more room to grow, and I think you are still growing in the sport. And
everyone is, and that's that's kind of the victory in it, is not just growing, learning that you could always grow more. Anytime I do something that I would think would be a positive thing, I always look at how could I do that better. Like, if I'm watching something I do in wrestling, I'm like, okay, that was good, but how could it be better? How can I make it great? You know what I mean? And that's what is a positive mindset to have of, you don't want to criticize every little thing you do, because, that could put you in a not great place, but you want to be able to break it down and see how you can improve upon it.
Well, I think I can understand that mindset a lot better than most. I think a lot of our listeners know me pretty well, and I think that's kind of a lot of the same mindset I have. So I really do have a lot of respect for you in seeing where you were and where you are now as well. Thank
you very much, man. Like I said, it wasn't an easy journey. It took me a lot of trials and tribulations, but I got there. Like when we were talking about Northeast Wrestling earlier, again, I was wrestling and I thought I was good, but I was wrestling at the same spot maybe once, twice a month, and that was it, and Northeast Wrestling kind of gave me that opportunity to put myself on a bigger platform and getting seen by more people, and things started taking off great from there. And when I first came in, there was no plan for me. Like, we talked about TK O'Ryan a little bit earlier. I'm wearing the Fat Mario shirt. TK, if you're listening, I'm wearing the Fat Mario for you, the classic. He's the one who helped me get into Northeast Wrestling. I don't think I was wanted at first, not like in a sense of dislike, just in a sense of like, oh, what is this guy going to bring to the table, And TK just kept, pitching me every time, like, oh, we need someone for this. TK would be like, Brad Hollister. We need someone for Brad Hollister. And, he did that enough where it's finally like, I think the owner was, Michael Lombardi, was like, oh, okay, enough. We'll give him a shot. And if he fails, it's on you. Like, it was one of those things. And I came in, and like I was saying, I was put with Flip. And I could tell that Flip was going to be the next big thing at Northeast Wrestling. Like, Flip, if anyone out there listening has seen Flip wrestle, like, Flip is a special kind of talent. Like,
he is for sure.
Top 5 high flyers in the world right now. And he's maybe like 5 years in wrestling. Like, only 5 years experience, and he's already top 5 high flyers in the world. He's incredible. And I knew that he was going to be, like, or not that I knew, but I had a good idea that he was going to be like the next top talent, or top guy in, I almost said top talent, Christian Casanova. He's going to be the next top guy in Northeast Wrestling. So I was like, all right, if they're putting me with Flip, I better have some great matches with Flip. That way, when Flip keeps rising up the ladder, I'm going to keep rising up with him, because people are going to be into our matches and they're going to keep wanting us together. So yeah, we may have started low on the card, may have came out match 1, match 2, match 3, but the last time we wrestled, we main evented in front of a sold out crowd, So it was, I seen my opportunity. I seen that Flip was going to get that big push, that big, he was going to get all those chances. So I was like, all right, if I could prove myself against him, that's going to help me in the long run. And, ended up working out pretty good. I have the belt now, so.
Yeah. And it feels like you have such an amazing bond with a lot of the guys that you came through with and that are there now in the past. Even if they move on, it seems like you still have such a strong bond with them.
Well, so when I first came into wrestling, which was 2008, and I say it was society too, like, even 10 years ago or 11 years ago, it was such a different world. Like, where I think when I was younger, there was more, when people talk about the politics, quote unquote, of wrestling, they were alive when I was younger. Like, when I was in 2008, like, I would see people stab people in the back, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, we're getting paid $40 to be at the show. Like, why are you stabbing one of your best friends in the world in the back over, like, winning and losing in a pro wrestling match? Like, are you kidding me? Like, to me, like, there was such a huge disconnect in that, and I think it was because I did the amateur wrestling for so long, where it's like, who cares? It's, you're going out there and you're having fun, you're entertaining. Like, why did, like, little things are such a big hang up for you? But now you look at locker rooms, and it's such a different culture, and it's such a different atmosphere. Like, again, it progressed with the times outside of wrestling, where it's kind of everyone's rooting for each other. There's really no one, like, bullying each other. And if there is, or if there's anyone that says anything that could be taken, could offend somebody, like, wrestlers will call each other out on it. Like, be like, hey, man, we don't talk like that anymore. Like, so just the whole vibe around pro wrestling and pro wrestlers has changed so much, where it is a family atmosphere. It's not, like I said, it's not like the Wild, and it's crazy because I only been in it for 11 years, so I can only imagine 10 years before that, where there's even less spots around. So, like I said, the atmosphere is so different. Everyone's rooting for each other. Every time someone has gotten signed, I thought, especially the way I grew up and how competitive I am, I thought I'd be like, oh man, this guy over me. Oh man, this guy over me. But there hasn't been one person that, got signed or got that big deal or made it that I haven't been like, oh dude, this guy deserves it. I'm so happy for him. Or I'm so happy for her. Like, when I first started, I was doing shows in front of 80 people with Sasha Banks. You know what I mean? And and me and her around the same age. So like, I think this actually wasn't when I was 15, excuse me. This was when I came back when I was 18, 19, around then. And, like, we're in front of 80, 90 people, you know? And when she made it, I was so over the moon because, first of all, she was only managing in that company. So I didn't even know she wrestled that much because there was less internet at the time. So it wasn't like I could just go on YouTube and pull up her stuff. And then I remember asking the owner, promoter of that show, when she got signed, I said, is she a good wrestler? And he goes, oh, dude, you have no idea. Like, she's so good. So, like, that was awesome when she made it. And like I said, everyone since then, like Dijak, another Northeast wrestling guy, when he made it, again, over the moon. That's a guy, he's 6'7", 250 pounds with a six-pack, and he could do a standing backflip. Like, that guy's unbelievable. Again, we talked about Hanson. Brian Malone has been in wrestling for 15 years at least, and he just signed a deal with Ring of Honor. Like, and he's a guy that always looked out for me when I was younger, and even now is still looking out for me. So everyone that's made it since, I cannot be happier for, and they really do deserve it. There hasn't been a guy or lady that I haven't been like, oh, can't believe they made it over me. Every single one I've been super, super happy for.
Well, I think it's better for everybody if you have that kind of brotherhood for the business. It makes, if you're better able to work together,
Absolutely.
You can have better matches. You can have a better atmosphere at the shows, and people get more into it, I think, when you have that atmosphere.
Of course. And like I said, it's a thing where, like, yes, there is a competitive nature to it because we're going out there and we're performing and you want to do your best. But I feel like it's all good-natured now, where I'm not competing against you because I want your spot. I'm competing with you because we want to have the best match possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
We want to put on the best event possible. I say it all the time with JT Dunn. No matter if we're wrestling each other or wrestling other people, every single time me and him will walk up to each other and I'm like, my match is going to be better than yours tonight, right? And he goes, no, it's not. My match is going to be better than yours. And, like, we're just, like, kind of messing with each other, but there's something so positive behind that message of, like, we're willing to go out there and destroy each other, or destroy ourselves to prove that, hey, we're going to be better on this night than you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I say it all the time. He helps me stay motivated in that sense, where I'm like, all right, JT's here. I'm going to have to put my working boots on tonight.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't JT have an opportunity at the title, I think in Bethany in a couple
yes,
very soon? So
May
if you're
4th.
still champion, that could be a great match for the title.
Yeah, so it was weird, man. We had a few of them, and we had this one in Bethany. And it was weird because I was not joking, but everything I put online, there's probably a hint of realism behind it, right? And my hint of realism behind that match was I was telling everyone this is the real main event. That's all I kept saying. I said, I don't care who's defending what title, because this was before I had the championship. So I was like, I don't care who's defending what title. I don't care if any big names on the show. Big Bacon Brad Hollister versus Pro Wrestling Savior JT Dunn is the main event. Right? And we showed up, and they looked at us, and they said, you guys are on last. And I was like, what? I'm like, we're on last? And they go, yeah. Like, so many fans are hyped up about this match, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I literally just spoke that into existence of this. And then me and him looked at each other like, oof.
Worked out?
Like, I know, but not that it worked out, though. Like, okay, now we really, really got to step our game up. Like, we got to... We talked a lot of junk. Now we got to back it up. So
and you did. I saw that match live.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You definitely did.
No, thank you. It was a tough one. I whacked my head on the stage. It was a brawl, to say the least.
So let's take it back to some of the beginnings of your career. Who have
Yes.
been some of the top mentors you've really had that have helped you through getting into the business and growing in the business?
So I trained with Antonio Thomas. And he used to wrestle in the WWE as the Heartthrobs. I don't know if you remember the Heartthrobs. But when they got released, he did a interview with I can't remember the site. I want to say it's Gerwick.net, but I know there's so many sites, so I don't want to be wrong. He did an interview with them, and he stated that he grew up training in the Springfield, Mass area. And again, when I'm 15 years old and I look online, which the internet was not what the internet is today then, the only thing I could find was for Chaotic Wrestling School, and that was pretty much it for Massachusetts, actually, at the time when I would look it up. And I was like, they're out in Boston. I'm 15 years old. Don't drive. How am I going to get out there every day, you know? And when he got released, he said in an interview he grew up training in the Springfield, Mass area. I'm like, wait, I live in Springfield. There's no wrestling schools around here. Like, what is he talking about? So I emailed the guy who, and being a pro wrestler now, I can't believe that anything like this worked out. Like, I can't believe it, because I'm just surprised I got any kind of responses to these emails. But I emailed the guy who ran the website, and I said, hey, can you put me in contact with him? I wanted to know where he trained out of, because I live in the area and I want to train, blah, blah, blah. So he puts me in contact with him, and he brings me into the school, and my parents had to sign a bunch of different kind of waivers because I'm 15 years old, going into a grown man business. And yeah, so he trained me from the start, really helped me get better. To this day, like, if I have like a big match coming up, or if I feel like I'm gonna have a longer match and I need to have better cardio, he's the first guy I hit up. Hey man, we gotta start working out together again. Like, I treat it like fight camps, you know what I mean? I'm like, gotta get ready for this event coming up. So to this day, he helps me out. Another one, Doc Harrisy, he helped me out a lot starting out. He used to help bring me up to these shows in Rhode Island that, if it wasn't for those shows, I would literally only be working the show my training school was associated with. So like, that helped me branch out a little bit more. So many guys. There's too many to name. In terms of like next level stuff, getting better, Matt Taven helped me out a lot. He's a guy that where he helps polish me, in the sense of, I'm like, all right, I know this is good, but why isn't it, like, what can make it better? What can make it great? And like, I'll send all like that stuff to him. Like, if I have a really good match, I'll send it to him to be like, what wasn't really good in this? What stunk in this that I could not do next time? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's something you always need to find a way to improve.
Yeah,
no matter
absolutely.
how good you do, you can always get better.
And that's what it is.
Sure.
It's not finding, because I could see what I do good. Like, that sounds arrogant, but it's true. Like, you watch something, anything, like, I'm sure you experience it with the radio. If you hear it back or listen to it back, you could hear, like, okay, that part was bad. That part was really good. Okay, I got something good out of this guy here. You know what I mean? You could feel it.
No, that's true. That's true, absolutely.
But there's certain things that if you send it to an expert on this, he'd be like, well, what about, why'd you do this here? Or why'd you say this here? And you're like, I didn't even think about that. Like, that was... How come I didn't think about that? Like, that should have been so simple. I should have been the first thing I thought of. So he helps me out a lot with that kind of stuff. Not so much as a mentor, but definitely a peer and a friend is Hammer Tunis, TK Orion. We were the original closers together. So them two of my best friends. Flip, one of my best friends. Awesome guy. And again, we started our bond off of being able to have chemistry in the ring. Because on paper, me and him have very little in common. Like, I didn't behave well growing up, and he was in the military. Like, very different lives, but we have that common interest of pro wrestling. And then when we got in the ring, like I said, it was like riding a bike. Like, felt like I've been wrestling him. The first time we ever wrestled, felt like we wrestled each other a million times before. So, and then again, that branches into friendships in real life.
Yeah, and I think I've definitely been able to see it in your matches, especially with people like Flip and the people you just mentioned, that you've had great matches with them. And I've really seen you improve from when you came into Northeast Wrestling. Like, I know you were good from the beginning of Northeast Wrestling, but ever since from that day forward, in your matches I've seen quality continuously grow, especially now that you're the champion. I think you've taken that really seriously.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing with it too is you find yourself at certain points. Like, when you start doing something for so long, and wrestling, I thought when I first got in Northeast Wrestling, I'm like, I know who I am. Like, I know who I am in that ring. Like, because again, you're portraying a character, and you're like, I know who that character is. But the more I'm at Northeast Wrestling, I start nitpicking stuff more, and I'm like, okay, maybe my character wouldn't do this so much, or maybe he would do this, or maybe I should be more serious. Because I would say before I got to Northeast Wrestling, I would do a lot more funny stuff in the ring. I would do a little bit more when I was a bad guy too, but like NEW, you find yourself in that company. So once I kind of found myself, I say it all the time, it was that Matt Riddle match at last year's WrestleFest where I really found myself, and I was like, all right, I could start hitting a stride here, and I could take the momentum from this and, hopefully keep bringing it up, keep ramping it up, and keep getting it to the next level. And that's why it's so cool. Like, last year's WrestleFest, the fans really started to embrace me. The fans really started to accept me. And this year at WrestleFest, I come in as the champ. So it's kind of like a nice story arc, if you will, of how it led to that.
It's that natural progression, and you really are one of the most popular, maybe the most popular right now star in Northeast wrestling. And
yeah, and I don't think that was planned. Like I said, I really don't. Like when Wrecking Ball lost his belt to Jack Swagger, like I just figured, all right, like Wrecking Ball and Swagger are gonna do their thing, and then it was that summer, and I say it was that summer that really things started taking off. Like the seeds were planted during that Matt Riddle match, but the plant came out of the ground during that summer of where you could start seeing it bud. Where it was, you had me against, again, Matt Riddle in the summer. We had a rematch where we fought all inside and all over a baseball stadium, which is crazy because there was one point we're fighting on the dugout. And I felt like a gladiator because you had people in the bullpen. I mean, yeah, you had people in the dugout. Then you had people all on top. And you just see Matt Riddle, who looks like a warrior from the Spartan age. And he has like a six-pack that looks like a turtle shell. Like his six-pack sticks out. I haven't seen anything more ridiculous in my life. And he's just walking and his hair's flowing in the wind. And you're like, oh, I am a gladiator right now. Like this is a real war. I'm fighting for my life. And then I had a couple, like 2 or 3 matches with Swagger during the summer, and a bunch of matches with JT Dunn, and it just seemed like everything I was doing that summer, like I couldn't go wrong. And like, you know how when you get into those rhythms, and I was just in that rhythm where it was just like I felt like I can go out there and have a great 15-20 minute match with anybody in the world. It didn't matter if they were wrestling for 10 years or 10 days. Like I was feeling it, you know, And when it came to me and Swagger and Bethany, like the Bethany crowd just really grew attached to me, and I'm just as attached to them. Like I love those people, man. Like I love it there. And when it was me and Swagger and Bethany, that's when they put that match together, that's when I started being like, wait a minute, I have a real shot of getting the title. Like, isn't just me going out there and losing to Swagger again and shaking hands after the match and us raising each other's hands and kissing babies on the way out. I'm like, this is a real opportunity. Like, this is Bethany, the place where I have a better relationship with the fans than probably anywhere else. And it's my 3rd time going against him. I'm like, in the last 2, he barely beat me. I'm like, this could be a real thing that's happening right now. And the fact that I did, it was nuts, man. It was so crazy.
I think just having followed the product at the time, and it was kind of a surprise to me originally when I saw that you were challenging for the title at that point. I said, well, he absolutely deserves it. I just didn't expect it. And I think it was one of those good surprises at the time, too. Just it seemed initially sort of out of nowhere. I know you had that great summer.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem like it was necessarily going to be right there. But then it happened, and I'm like, this is awesome. I was very happy with it right there.
But thank you. Like, and again, I think that helps a lot that I had that good relationship with Swagger, where the first time we wrestled before the match, like, you don't know, especially on his level, you don't know what you're wrestling against all the time. Like, when you're in WWE and then you start making your rounds on the indies, I'm sure you're going to get some guys where you're like, oh, this is a great match. This guy should get signed. And you're going to have some matches where it's like, oh, this makes sense why this guy's not signed, you know? So I think after our first match, he started getting more comfortable with me, and then I told him I had the amateur wrestling background. So a lot of our first one was just amateur wrestling stuff. So that was really cool to be able to roll around with a legitimate 2-time All-American, you know? So I say it all the time. In our last match, I ended up we're wrestling around, and I know Western New England has a great wrestling program,
Yep.
So I know a lot of you guys will be listening to this. So he goes to, this is a 2-time All-American from the University of Oklahoma, one of the most well-respected wrestling schools. And he goes to shoot in on my leg, and I sprawl, right? and I go to reshoot on him. Classic shoot, reshoot. So I go to shoot in on him. I get it. He sprawls on me. I circle around, step over his leg. He gets me in a whizzer. I go noodle arm, throw it forward, hook his waist, and I whisper into his ear, I go, "That's 2." Right? I never had anybody hit a switch on me so hard and so fast, and my face ate the mat so bad. And I don't think I got out of his waist lock for the rest of the release of the rest of the shot and the rest of the first couple minutes. So, man, he's an absolute animal, and that's why when he signed on for Bellator, I was like, yo, he's gonna absolutely destroy someone. I'm like,
Yeah.
This guy's next level when it comes to grappling.
Yeah, so we're probably going to start to wind down a little bit with the interview
Cool.
tonight.
Awesome.
But we do have one last question for you. It was actually submitted by a lot of people around campus when I started telling them about this interview.
All right.
Everyone wanted to know, where did the name Big Bacon come from?
So I actually get this one a lot, and it comes down to one person, and I say he invented it, but then someone else popularized it. Ryan Drew, because he recently retired from pro wrestling. He trained TK O'Ryan, trained Matt Taven, Vinny Marcellia, like all the Kingdom guys came from his school. Hammer Tunis, who is also a very good amateur wrestler, and TK O'Ryan, we were brought into Top Rope Promotions as Team Waters for Ryan Waters, right? And he's kind of doing the introductory promo. He's like, "This is Hammer Tunis. He's a savage. He'll rip your leg off. He'll pick you limb from limb. Here's TK O'Ryan, Division I baseball player. He's a great athlete. He's this, he's that." And this thick-cut piece of all-American bacon, this is Brad Hollister, right? And it was just that. That's all it was. Like, there was nothing behind it. And then I would hang out with TK outside of wrestling, and he just started calling me Bacon for everything. Instead of Brad or Hollister, he'd just be like, "Hey, Bacon, grab this. Bacon, grab this." So, to the point where even when we're talking to our opponents, he's like, "All right, Bacon's going to hit you with this, and then Bacon will do this." Like, so when I'm in tag matches, my primary goal, yes, is to win the match, but the one right behind that is to make my partner laugh, because I just like making people laugh when they're not supposed to. Because to me, there's something great in that. There's something pure in that when someone is trying to be mean and all serious and you can make them laugh. So I would give someone like a big German suplex or whatever, and I would just look at TK and I'll go, "Bacon!" Right? And that's all it was. And then he would like start laughing, and I would get it behind him. And then we came to a show, and a fan brought a sign that said, because he called himself the Sassy Wild Horse for a while. So a fan brought a sign that said Sassy Wild Horse and Big Bacon. And I was like, well, that's pretty clever, right? And Hammer Tunis also has an over-the-top nickname. And I'm like, okay, this is perfect. I'm like, we all got ridiculous nicknames. I'm like, we're all teaming together. I'm like, all right, I can roll with the bacon thing. And then I made a couple shirts. And any shirt I ever had that I put the word bacon on sold like it was going to cure something. Like, it was unbelievable how many people...
It's such an interesting nickname.
Yeah, and again, when people ask, like, "Oh, what does it mean?" I go, "I'm thick, meaty, and I attack hearts." That's what Big Bacon's all about.
Well, that I think that's a great way to cap off your interview.
We'll cap it on thick, meaty, and heart attack and Big Bacon, baby.
So I just want to thank you for coming in tonight, taking some time out of your night to be here. And...
Oh, thank you for having me, man. It was a great time. Like I said, you guys have a really, really nice setup here. I'm always watching Joe Rogan, and I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm Eddie Bravo over here with the microphone. I'm like, this is nice.
Yeah, it's absolutely been so cool to have you here, and just
I'll talk conspiracies, Eddie Bravo style.
but just for everyone listening, definitely if you are able to check out Spring Slam on the 27th, if you're in Holyoke, if you're closer to Danbury, check out WrestleFest. Either way, you're going to see some fantastic shows, and Big Bacon, Brad Hollister in the main event there. It's going to be fantastic. So definitely go and check it out. And once again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Follow me at Big Bacon Brad on all social media accounts. And, like some pictures, buy some T-shirts. Y'all know what to do. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so once again, thank you. And right from there, we're probably going to head right into some more music. So as everyone knows, this is the Hit List, the best variety of music from the 80s through today.